I'm walking into the Orchard Tea Garden from a path which has been taken by the great and the good for the last 120 years. And once again, you can see this wonderful historic business of Cambridge is shut down because of the ludicrous programme of track and trace. And my posting on Friday was perhaps a little intemperate, so I thought I'd share with you the reason why everybody in the hospitality industry went to bed last night and has woken up this morning worried. This business is a seasonal business. We make our money in the summer, as do very many people. We are, this time of year, we will be full, supported by tourists. We have no tourist trade, inbound tourist trade in England at the moment. So my sales here in the first 3 months of April, May and June are down by 27%. So that's the first problem that we're having to face, is a reduction in sales. The second problem we're facing right now is hyperinflation. Hyperinflation has arisen at these shores. Let's be no doubt it is already here. The Bank of England was forecasting an inflation rate of 4%, but in fact when you look at what is being forecast for the increase in pensions, that's raising to 8%. And here in the Orchard Tea Garden right now, we're seeing inflation at 10% in the goods that we buy. I've already had 2 letters in the last week telling us that we're going to put up their prices by 10%. And what I'm seeing is wage inflation, certainly for chefs, temporary chefs, between about 25 and 30%. And that's right the way across the board. We're seeing we cannot get our deliveries. People like bookers cannot deliver to us because they can't get drivers. And drivers' wages, I'm told, are rising at about 25% too. So let's be in no doubt, we've got hyperinflation arriving in this country. And I'm old enough, you can look at me and you can see that I'm old enough to know that, I know what damage hyperinflation can do to businesses like this. Not only are we facing hyperinflation and costs that we've got to manage, but the government has already announced that on the 1st of October, our VAT rate is going back to 12.5%. Currently, it's 5%. That is going to be a devastating effect on businesses like ours. We opened on the 1st of April here we were £320 off the top of our overdraft when we reopened. We haven't yet had time to rebuild our balance sheet. So we're seeing phenomenal increases in costs, and we're going to see a reduction in our takings, in our income, by an increase in VAT. We cannot manage both those squeezes at the same time. The next thing that's happened to us is we've had a delay. We expected to be free in June. That didn't happen. We expected to be free, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. We expected to be free in July. Was it in June? Then we expected to be free in July. And then we have now been told that we're not going to be free from track and trace or test and trace for our staff, and only for those that have been double jabbed until the 19th of August. That is far too late. You know, we are shut down right now because although my staff, a couple of them are poorly, one not very poorly, although a couple of them are poorly, the rest are absolutely fine. And yet we cannot have a system whereby our staff are tested, and if they're free, they can come back to work. We can't manage like this. You know, I cannot go on. Hospitality businesses cannot go on until the middle of August, not knowing what staff they have to plan. You know, it's really quite impossible. You know, that's coming towards the end of the summer. You know, 2 weeks after that, the kids are back at school, and we're then hunkered down into an ordinary season. So, two things we have to be screaming about now. Firstly is that the government has to immediately introduce testing for anybody that's been told to isolate. And if the test comes back negative, then they should be allowed to come back to work. Then hospitality can manage. The second thing is that VAT, we can't cope with a VAT increase to 12.5% in October. It has to be delayed until next year. Unless the government does this kind of thing, then I'm afraid traditional community businesses like this one, 120 years old, are not going to be here. And that will be desperately sad for England. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.